Doing well. It was fun to watch Georgia get back to what I guess fans have gotten to see, gotten used to seeing from the Bulldogs. They were held to 8 rushing yards against Mississippi State, turned that into 332 tonight. So I think it was a little bit back to normal, and one of the most complete games we've seen out of the Bulldogs this season.
So I had this game on a second screen, so I saw most of it in and out, but obviously the game was much of a blowout pretty quickly. At 28-10 was about the point at which I thought Georgia had a pretty good handle on it, but I didn't realize that they had run for, let's see, you said 332 on 7.2 yards per carry. So James Cook, 6 for 104 and a couple touchdowns. Zamir White, 13 for 84, a couple touchdowns. Kenny McIntosh had 79 yards on 9 carries. DeJuan Edwards had 14 for 77. Very nice. 332 on the ground. Okay. Yeah, 4 touchdowns. Of course, everyone's going to want to know your thoughts about JT Daniels. We see he only had to throw it 16 times, 10 completes for 139.
Yeah, I think this is probably what you should expect out of Daniels. I think he missed on some opportunities. Had a ball that he threw into double coverage that likely should have been intercepted. Had another ball that was thrown that was picked off that probably could have been caught. So, I think this is more of what you're, should get used to seeing from Daniels. I think, you're not going to see Georgia rush for 8 yards all that often, and you're probably not going to see them rush for 332. But, you're not going to see them rushing for 8 and relying on the pass nearly as much as they did last week. I think this was one of the most, like I said, one of the most complete performances we've seen out of the Bulldogs this season. Very balanced attack, like I said. They were a little bit more run heavy, but Daniel's still getting over 100 yards through the air. I think this is kind of what Georgia fans were hoping to see. When they brought JT Daniels in, to see okay, and I think that bringing in Todd Monken, it's kind of along the same lines that Kirby Smart, Georgia is always still going to be a run first program, and they're gonna attack the run and pound it on the ground. But, they've also shown the ability to, attack teams through the air. It was really great to see Arian Smith get his first career touchdown tonight. True freshman that has been battling some injuries, played in his first career game last weekend against Mississippi State, had some preseason injuries, and his first career catch got that tonight on a touchdown. So, and it was also great to see Dejon Edwards had his first career touchdown called back, but he led the team with 14 carries tonight. And Kirby Smart said after the game, it was really exciting to see some of these younger guys. Georgia hasn't played in a ton of games this year that have been blowouts, and so to get some of those guys, the combination of not getting ahead all that often in these games and kind of having to stick and battle around. I mean, the last 4 games, you look back at it, it's been 2 losses and a 14-0 win and a 7-point win over Mississippi State. So I think it's certainly been closer than expected in some of these games, and because of that, you haven't gotten to see a lot of these members of Georgia's number 1 ranked recruiting class. That aren't necessarily going to be huge contributors right away, but they're still major factors of the future of Georgia football. And I think it was exciting for Georgia fans and certainly for Kirby Smart to see, some of those guys get some time tonight.
Got our guy Palmer Toms on the line from Dogs 247 Sports. Georgia wins over South Carolina in Columbia 45-16. JT Daniels less emphasized this time around with the rushing attack at 332. Lewis Cine had a big night. 12 tackles. Anything else to highlight on the defensive side?
Tyson Campbell had his first career interception. Former, I guess he was the number 2 ranked corner in that class back in 2018. He's a junior, started as a freshman, and kind of surprised me. I was like, I think that's his first career interception, but wasn't 100% certain, and looked back and it was. So, I think that's big for him and big for this Georgia secondary that has struggled at points this season. So, I think you mentioned Cine with the big performance, Campbell with the interception. I think those are both 2 highlights for the night on Georgia's defensive side of the ball. And also, I think you look at the young defensive linemen, Still with Julian Rochester, who's probably out for the season. Jordan Davis is still out. Some of these younger guys, redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, are making plays. Jalen Carter had a sack early on and made a big tackle. Zion Logue and a couple other guys have been in there. So I think, the Georgia's defense has been called into question recently, given the fact that they, were kind of just dominated in the two losses that the Bulldogs have had, giving up, so many passing yards to Trask and to Jones in the two losses to Florida and Alabama. So I think, obviously this is not nearly the caliber of team that those two teams are. But I think it was good for Georgia's defense to get back on track tonight.
Palmer, one last question about the passing attack, because you talk to people every day. You see the message boards. You're there at 247 Sports. You guys get inundated as one of the industry standards for college football coverage. So I got to think that when you made the comment that Kirby Smart said, hey, of course we need to throw the ball, but we're always going to be a power running team first and foremost. That's our program. That's our core. That I got to think for two different reasons that rub some people the wrong way, either from an entertainment standpoint, like we want to see entertaining football. We want to see the 30 or 40 throws per game. And then number two, just those people that think you can't win like that in 2020. You have to be pass heavy. You have to spread people out. You have to, and you're not going to be able to necessarily attract elite quarterbacks that way. Any thoughts in that direction?
Yeah, that's not exactly what Kirby said. It's more kind of the vibe that I pick up on it, in the fact that he has said you still have to be able to run the ball to win college football games, especially in the SEC. And so, I think that's more a statement of mine that I think this is what you should come to expect to see from Georgia. You're, like I said, you're not going to see the 401 passing yards every week. They're not going to go to an air raid offense where they're throwing it 50 times a week. I do think that they probably, let's say Georgia were to take on Alabama or Florida again. I think that, and with JT Daniels at quarterback, I think that you would see Georgia pass the ball and more than 16 times like they did tonight. But I don't think that you're going to see them throwing it 50 times like they did last weekend against Mississippi State. On the other end, I don't think you're going to see them run for 332 yards against those teams, but you're also not going to see them run for 8. I think it's still important to be able to run the ball to win football games. Obviously tonight with the game in control early on, you did see them going to the ground, chewing clock. That's why you see Dejon Edwards on the stat sheet, true freshman, who's really probably their fourth running back, fifth if you include Kendall Milton, who's also a true freshman, but he's out with injury. But fourth running back tonight, and he led the team in carries with 14. That's because they're chewing clock at the end of the game. Kirby Smart didn't want to run the score up on his good friend Mike Bobo. Georgia had a good chance to get in the end zone late. They were on the 1 yard line and went to victory formation, leading 45-16. So, I guess what I'm saying is I think that running the ball certainly has a place in Georgia's offense under Todd Monken, under Kirby Smart, and with JT Daniels at the helm, regardless of who's at the helm, whether it's Daniels or Brock Vandagriff in the future, even the guys that are on the roster. I think Georgia is RBU. They've kind of established that. They've got a rich history of running backs, and they've got a stable full of great ones, currently in Athens. And so I think you're still going to see them want to run the ball, especially with the offensive line that's as big as those guys are. They're still going to want to run the ball. They're still going to want to establish that. And when they can dominate a game like they did tonight on the ground, they're going to do it. But I think what Georgia fans should feel good about is what they showed last weekend against Mississippi State is that if they can't run the ball, they now have a quarterback that can bail them out in a sense, and throw for 401 yards if that's what he's called on to do. So I think, nights like this are probably more what you're likely to see out of JT Daniels, throwing for 139 yards. You may see him get into the 200s, pretty frequently if Georgia continues with him at their quarterback. And looking at the wide receivers that they've got tons and tons of talent there. So I think, you will see Georgia throw the ball. But you're not going to see them throw it for 401 yards. You will see them run the ball, but you're probably not going to see them run the ball for 330 in big games.
Folks, if you're not familiar with Daijun Edwards, which I was not, I have to admit, 2020 class, 21st rated running back, according to the 247 Sports Composite, number 28 player in the state of Georgia, and a top 300 player, 278. So for most programs, probably the top rated running back that they're going to bring in, and even for a lot of really good programs, maybe the second guy. But as Palmer points out, at least we'll see how it plays out, but at least from a numbers, rating, scouting standpoint coming out of high school, like the fifth guy in line at Georgia. So the recruiting talent is still just amazing. Palmer, we appreciate you stopping by. And Georgia now 6-2, ninth, I believe, in the college football rankings, playoff rankings last week, should hold firm or maybe rise with Northwestern losing.
Yeah, so, I would expect to see them going up in the rankings with the Northwestern loss. But, I do think that 9 was probably a little bit high, given the fact that there are some great teams out there that haven't been, playing the Power 5 schedule. So I think 9 is probably about right. You may see them slide up to 8 with Northwestern's loss, but I think Georgia's probably bound for a New Year's Six bowl, but not in playoff contention.
Palmer, we appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Appreciate it.